This is the 8-9 Combo.
This is the 8-9 Combo. I'm Brett McKay. This is Harry Jones. And if all eyes were on Dublin last week, mate, eyes are going to be darting all over the place this weekend in the Six Nations. How are you going?
How's it, man? What we've learned about our pod, though, is that if I'm using coconuts as my Wi-Fi and there's palm fronds waving across my hair like I've got some kind of reggae hairstyle, we kill it.
People love
Thanks
it.
for all the guys who hit the subscribe button, followed the rules, stopped wanking, and got on. And also, big appreciation to Ringo for putting up with that ridiculousness.
Yeah. Yes, and thanks to him for the shout out on the rugby update this week too. It was nice to get a little bit of cross pollination. We can't wait to get into another great rugby chat with the great Bernard Jackman in just a moment. But we start like we always do with cheers and jeers. And I'm leading off for you, mate, with a cheers for impossible Super Rugby tipping right now. You and I went 2 from 5 last weekend in round 4 and lead our little chat group league with 14 from 25. I'm now inside the top 3,000, and I assume you are as well. Out of nearly 15 or 16,000 entrants on the platform we use, the overall platform leaders are only on 16 points. So tipping in Super Rugby is ridiculously hard this year.
That's a good one. As you all know, our jeers have been turned into cheers, and so I try when I'm on the jeers side to do a satirical cheer. My cheer is: how good a referee do you have to be where the winner of the game is protesting you and saying it was the worst refereed match ever? And the loser's also saying, but you whistled us off the park having only had 6 penalties. I think that's genius. Go Gus. No, in seriousness, I do think that there's maybe it's us against the world the French are using right now about the no respect thing, and we need to go to World Rugby, and the rucks in general are dangerous for us. But it's sort of a weird thing to watch. Let's see what happens about what France does to get more respect from World Rugby.
Yeah. Winning will help. I'm quite sure about that.
Just keep having World Cups in your country. It's probably the ultimate sign of World Rugby.
Probably works. A quick message before we get into this week's app. If you are listening on the 8-9 Combo via Spotify, via Apple Pods, or any of the podcast platforms, then quickly hit subscribe like so many of you have in the last few weeks. Yeah. And if you're watching on YouTube, just the little red subscribe button down there in the corner is all you need to do. So thank you in advance for doing so. Let's get into it. I'm really looking forward to this. The 2025 Six Nations was supposed to be decided last weekend in Dublin, but 80 minutes of incredible rugby and 15 outstanding French forwards ensured that the final round jeopardy across all 3 games comes this weekend. And to get into the weeds about that, we've gone to one of the best pundits we know, another genuine friend of the pod. It is great to welcome back for the first time in 2025, Bernard Jackman. Hello, mate. Great to see you
guys.
again.
Hi, Brett. Hi, Harry. Looking forward to this. I've broken it down a few times already, but what's one more? But France are beautiful to watch, but also fierce in their power and aggression, and it's frightening how good they could be. Realistically, you're just looking. I left the stadium on Saturday night just going, how are they not going for a Grand Slam? Because some of the rugby they played this year has been phenomenal. They're on record. They're on track to. They've already broken their own point scoring record after 4 games with 1 game to go. And if they have a big blowout against Scotland, they'll actually beat England's scoring record from 2001. That's how effective their attack has been.
Yeah, sometimes it's good to have the dust settle a little bit. I know, Bert, you were talking about almost going over and over and over about power, and then a few days pass and you look at things and you wonder about some other angle. France has had that higher ceiling now for a while on power, collision, combat, the gladiatorial part of rugby, the brutal ballet, than Ireland, who has done more, just thinking their way around the park, a team of captains, strategical things, tactical things. This time, France created a game in which there was no escape. They could exploit that advantage, and they did it to the max. How do they template that?
I think they're tempted by showing no weakness in that first 20 minutes, by having a combination of everything you need in a rugby team. So good set piece. They didn't get dominance at scrum time, but their line-out was rock solid, which it has been in all competition. They're leading the stats for line-out wins. But their maul, they didn't score from a maul try directly, but that maul that was heading towards the post that DuPont passed to Bia Barry, that was going to score anyway. But in the middle third of the pitch, they were able to take that ball down and maul Ireland forwards 10, 15 meters, which if you're in that opposition forward pack, that's just energy sapping. It's a psychological blow as well. So they had a good set piece. Scrum was perfect, just didn't dominate us, but scrum was perfect. Their kicking game was excellent, particularly Luku. So the quality of Luku's kicking when he came on was phenomenal. And then their defensive system, they mixed it all up perfectly. Went to contest the breakdown, went to not contest the breakdown, went to make two-man hits, went to just chop, went to go hard off the edge, went to go soft off the edge. Discipline. I mean, Ireland so often when they have that territory, when they have you into 22, they normally milk a penalty, and then from there they can go to the corner. They can play a quick tap, which we obviously have an array of different quick tap options, or they can go for a cross-field kick or a wide pass earlier with knowing they have advantage. We didn't have advantage, and you saw Gibson Park, maybe throwing that pass a little bit earlier than he normally would, or not at the right moment, and then France lining up our carriers and just picking them up and smashing them back. So it was, and then obviously the flair, the X factor, the beauty of the offloads from Jean-Baptiste Gros to Luku to Boudin for the try, which really hurt Ireland because we got a yellow card and conceded 7 points. The counter ruck, the ferocity of the counter ruck on the edge.
That was
the
beautiful.
way Penno, just went across field straight and threw a beautiful pass to Bia Barry. His accuracy on putting that ball on his toe and winning the foot race,
but Birch, on that counter ruck, they did it with fewer forwards.
Yeah,
they literally came with three or four guys and pushed 7 to 8 guys, which then sets that demoralizing tone you're talking about. Was there any fluster in Ireland? Did you feel a perception of Ireland kind of getting what's plan B, what's plan C, or was it just a better team on the day?
Oh no, they're by far a better team on the day. But I think the problem for Ireland is that since November, you've seen cracks in our game. So we well beaten by the All Blacks. Could have easily lost to Australia. Could have lost to Argentina. Not amazing against Fiji. First round against England at home. Struggled for long periods, but kind of problem solved their way through that in the third quarter. Went to Scotland. Scotland aren't a brilliant team. I think we've had their number, and they had obviously went 6-2 and lost 2 back. So you can't really judge that form. And then against Wales, we didn't score a bonus point. So there's been creaks in our game that I certainly papered over. I was really angry with myself Saturday night because I had tipped Ireland to win by a point. And I tried to analyse why I didn't see that French performance coming. And I knew France were very good, but I hoped and felt that Ireland had another 20% to find that we've shown before, but not recently, if that makes sense. So, I hope that Ireland, with the emotional charge of the 3 legends, their last home game, the fact that it was a Grand Slam on the line, we didn't have a Grand Slam last year, the fact that it was a chance to go for 3 Six Nations in a row, which never been done. There was so many carrots there, or so many reasons why, if Ireland were going to find that improved performance, they would. But we weren't able to. Some of that was down to France, and a lot of it was down to France, to be fair. But some of it was also down to obvious cracks in our game that we need to figure out quickly.
The French, obviously there's 2 things there. One's they've had a building sense of, resentment, but also disappointment at themselves. And Sean Edwards would have been fuming for about a year now. And Galtier obviously has had some serious pressure. So it was a changing the guard moment for them. Their press was saying, you have to win. So both sides face pressure, but they seem to be able to handle it with depth and power and, a commonality of mind. I'm looking at the French last few years, winning the under-20s, throwing guys like Guillard and Boudahon in that, maybe some of the Kiwi commentators don't even know their names, but they're really proper players. And they seem to be able to do it without missing a beat. Whereas with Ireland, there's this tremendous continuity. You look back over 2022, 23, 24, blindside, lock, loose trio, and that was good.
Back three.
That really helped Ireland. But now you're looking at the French being able to just throw bouncers and battlers in. People don't know their names in the Southern Hemisphere sometimes. You and I were at the same semi-final schools at Donnybrook. And even though I was amazed in the rain at the handling, the skill handling and so forth, and the thinking of those and the good, strong, lads, but they're not 6'7", 6'8", like Paul Ruiz, Parl Jim. If you go to that derby, you're looking at monsters everywhere. Where are they going to find them? Are they in GAA? Is it similar to Australia where you just got to find people from other codes, the Joseph Suali'i types? And how can Ireland do that? Because up against France, it feels like France can just keep manufacturing those forever now.
Yeah, and look, they can. They've obviously got more clubs, more playing, bigger playing pool, more professional clubs. Even there's a good level of professionalism in Federal 1. They have more diversity of type of backgrounds that play rugby. It's not as elitist as it here. It's a private schools dominated game here, to be fair. Some of the best athletes play rugby in Ireland, but some of them play hurling, Gaelic football, soccer, boxing, rowing. And look, at every country has to compete with that. But when you have a small population, you kind of need to be better at actually getting those really special athletes to commit to your game, right? And we haven't done a great job of that. You see, and probably, to be honest, ironically, if you look at Australia, the fact that they have Aussie rules, NRL, rugby union, who are all professional, soccer who are professional, they all have a better understanding of the need to attract the best talent at a young age. Whereas here, we're the only professional sport, right? So, and maybe we haven't understood that we actually, just being the only professional sport isn't a God-given right to get the best talent, that we have to actually go and fight for it. When you're professional, and it's ironic, you would say, the amateur sports should have been the ones who realize that professional sport is the one that's way ahead. I actually don't think we are. I think if you look at the hearts and minds of the young kids and their parents in this country, a lot of them are more connected emotionally to their GA club, than they are to their rugby club. But it's getting better. It's getting better, but we haven't increased our playing pool massively. The other thing that's interesting is, like, I had a bit of a discussion or an argument or a debate with someone pre-match from TV, from ITV, really good fella, and he said, which French will turn up? And I said, well, to be fair, that's not really fair on this group, because whenever DuPont has been around, they actually have turned up. They have turned up, and you have to forgive them the fact of the start of their Six Nations last year, where DuPont wasn't there, and there was an obvious hangover from losing a home World Cup. And like, having worked in France for 5 years, the home thing is bigger there than anywhere else. Like they've won a World Cup in soccer at home. Every week, the home game is the one you have to win every fortnight.
There's a stat on that, Birch, where actually, compared to all other leagues, I think it's even cross sports, and it's phenomenal. Like, you only drop 14% of your home games or something, and that's just so different from Super Rugby, for example.
100%. So for the last 6 years under Galtier, they've either been first or second with Ireland they'll be first this week or whatever. So that'll be 2 championships. They were second every other time, and they always win November. Like, in November, whether it's the All Blacks, whether it's Australia, the Box, they beat them, right? The only reason they haven't consistently been top 2 or 3 in the world is because in the summer tour, they don't send their best players. Care. Yeah,
no,
well, they
don't care about July.
But that actually, I think, that actually has been an absolute boost to them, because that has allowed them have a look at Jeju, Aradu, Boudon, some of the next crop who are coming through, who like Guillard, he's in Lyon. He wasn't playing in the playoffs last year. So, those players are able to go. Galty is able to have a look at him. So it's like a development tour. DuPont wasn't going to New Zealand this summer, I think. And it caused quite an outcry. But they basically are locked and loaded for Six Nations in November. And the summer tour is their chance to have a look at the next crop. They've won the last 2 Junior World Cups. They may win this year's Junior World Cup, even though England are phenomenal. France prioritised playing time in top 14 or Pro D2 during the Six Nations for those youngsters. So again, they bring back the best possible group to go to the World Cup in the summer. Like they are rolling now. France are rolling. And when you see them, you'd say, like New Zealand, like South Africa, like England, if they got their shit together, those 4 teams should be consistently the top 4 in the world, I think.
Well, it must speak, Bernard, it must speak to the quality of the program and the systems that are in place across the national teams behind Les Bleus at the top. And it's almost underappreciated. Ireland's program is widely lauded around the world. There's been so many articles written over the last decade how Australia needs to copy Ireland, but the French system of being able to drop, as you say, they can run a pool of 75 players and they can drop a back rower in from insert club here, and he fits and he works.
It's club driven, not schools. It doesn't
club driven.
Yeah.
And there's no sporting schools there really. You play for you join a club on a Tuesday, Thursday night, whether that's athletics, whether that's handball, where it's basketball. And they have a lot of choice. They have a lot of choice. And rugby isn't in certain regions. There's very little rugby, but where it is, the rugby club is a big part of the community and the village and the town and the suburb. For male and female, they're it's very open. It's a very open place, the rugby club down there.
It's social,
It's very social, and it's family driven. It's not exclusive. It's not snobby. It's they have it right. But to be fair, it is very club driven. But the French Federation have worked over the last 10 years to modernize and improve their own coaching and their own level of sports science, their facilities, the understanding of how they want to play the French way. So I think so. I did a piece for RT pre-match on the French attack, and my way of summing it up was, it goes from ugly to beautiful in 5 seconds, right? And to be honest, when I say ugly, like I've had people say, "Oh, it's your perception of ugly," and I absolutely agree with this. Like it is my perception, but I would say my perception is biased by what the vast majority of attack coaches, I would say actually exclusively non-French attack coaches, see as being the best way to attack, right? As in how you set your team up, the shape you ask them to play, and how that's going to shut down or disturb the defense. Whereas they don't care what it looks like, okay, until it opens up, right? So I would say, how I compare them to the beauty of French is, because of the language barrier and because of how proud they are of their own rugby heritage and culture, they haven't been affected by outside foreign coaches. I coached there for 5 years. I had my philosophy, but I had to give in certain things to their philosophy, right? Which is absolutely right. Whereas I've had Michael Cheika, we've had Joe Schmidt, we've had Warren Gatland, we've had Razzie Erasmus. So we've Jack Nienabar here coaching at the moment. We have Mike Catt, we've Andy Farrell, Simon Easterby. Obviously Simon Easterby came through the Irish system, but also he understands the Welsh system incredibly well. So we've had an unbelievable level of intellectual property come into our country, and that has shaped how we think about the game, right? And I'm not criticizing that. It's just the way it is. Whereas France, as I said, a lot of the high-profile foreign coaches haven't worked there. So Stuart, unfortunately, lost his job. Michael Cheika lost his job. Hugh McKenzie lost their job. They don't think that they need to change. And how French rugby players play. I was talking to an under 14s team came over to play one of the local clubs here Saturday morning, and one of the dads met me in a coffee shop, and he was blown away how they played. You know, it was totally different than he's ever seen. He's not like, and he's not a student of the game, but he watches his young lad play every Saturday morning and has done for the last 6-7 years since he was under 8s, and he's never seen a team play like that. And I think that's super. I think it's cool because styles make fights, and we've a lot of style within. You know, England play slightly differently than New Zealand and all that stuff, but realistically, no one attacks like France. And even the counter I spoke about that led to the Bill try, it starts with Ramos having a little grubber kick outside his 22 down the blind side. Like, it doesn't make sense. You saw Bia Barry crossfield kick to Penno, like backwards. When the game was very much so like it's
Louis admitted that if the kick had gone where he was aiming it, that it would have been a try. Ireland.
Yeah, it probably would have been a try too.
It was a nice kick.
But Galtier, he shanked it. Yeah,
Galtier has given them. I think Galtier's learning from the World Cup was Galtier got great success out of France initially by bringing discipline, bringing more data into how they play, etc. And actual fact, he got criticized wildly in France post that defeat in South Africa for basically overplaying. They felt that they basically overplayed, and that suited South Africa. But since then, he's actually doubled down on French flair, letting players have a go. It's very similar to how Bordeaux and Toulouse play, and obviously they're contributing some of the main actors. And it's not flawless, like you saw against England. It can go wrong, but it's very hard to stop. I mean, it's very hard to stop.
When it gets on the roll,
it is interesting because it's kind of a hybrid of the ugly to pretty thing.
Yeah,
they maul more than anyone else. They're at the polar opposites of Ireland. I threw you some stats, all us fellas, before we went on. The maul is 17.5 meters per game for French, only 5 for Ireland. Their exit is impeccable usually. Even those ones that are scrambly, they're trying to work to a kick. And they got the kick, and it was a 50-meter exit. They don't play wider than second receiver. They just don't. They don't go 7, 8, 9 phases. They don't. I don't think they can. I think they know that about themselves. They cannot get Miafu to the wide trams to clean. And then they use turnover source tries, and they all go Wildcat. It's almost like everyone just yells a word, and they go boom, and it switches. I also saw wild dog defending where it was defend, and they kept on their feet, and then suddenly Ireland went. It was a wide. Ireland went to the left tram, and then 4 back 5 forwards from French just streamed in and isolated the guy, and it had to be a call. There was no way that 5 guys all depart from their pillar post and go. So Birch, this Sean Edwards is a very aggressive attack defense.
Yeah, and look, that's always been. But what he hasn't done. Sorry, their defense was magnificent, but that has evolved as well. I mean, when you close your eyes and think about Sean Edwards' defense, like. I'd be shocked if you don't think about some kind of blitz from the outside. He's actually eased off on that, but he hasn't eased off on the core fundamentals of being a dog and making the opposition fight for every inch. And they defended for him. Did you see his face after the game when Galtier was?
He was filthy.
Yeah, he was filthy because he see the 2-day tries. Whereas most coach in the world would realize they shut down a team.
Galtier is trying to congratulate him. He's like, no, fire off. Like, I'm annoyed.
Yeah, he is tough. He's a tough taskmaster, but it's so hard to see them not win it now. And I know Scotland will try and upset them, but I think that England game
the points differential is prohibitive. You know, all they have to do is get across the line.
You mentioned the column you wrote and that you had to reanalyze it. Were you surprised how far off the mark you ended up being about France?
Oh, yeah. I'm really angry with myself because
it kind of came through in your copy, I got to say.
No, but I watched them against England, and even though they lost, I still saw like how many like the hardest part is
they just dropped the ball. That's all they did.
Yeah, like what everyone's trying to do is create those opportunities, which they did against Italy, they did against Wales, they did against England. So they had done that 3 times, except one day they just decided to switch off and not capitalize on that. And the worry then was how would it affect them. I thought we saw against Italy an absolute ruthless reaction to that, and then. But I still thought Ireland could be better. I now I'm really worried about Ireland. I'm really worried about Ireland, how we're playing, our rejuvenation of the squad, our depth in behind. You know, are we going to be able to find another Keane Healy, Peter Manny, Conor Murray? Yeah. It's unlikely you find 3 players who can get 100 caps and win the things they've done. You know, our game plan, our attack is different. It's very different. Obviously, we're missing Andy Farrell. I think psychologically, those French players. So, France, I think could easily come to Dublin with confidence because La Rochelle and Toulouse have been beating Leinster, which is effectively Ireland, right? You know, just the only challenge was Ireland had their number at international level, but they know they can outplay a lot of those players individually. And then it was just a case of collectively. And now the challenge for Leinster is what damage has that done to our Leinster players? Because they're going to have to play a Bordeaux. We're very lucky that Bordeaux and Toulouse play each other on the other side of the draw. But obviously Toulouse won't have to pump. But that kind of performance and results marks you mentally, I think. It does.
But it's telling that Leinster has gone and got Archis Neyman, Jordy Barrett, and
100%. We know
and Slimani. They're three positions: a very versatile midfielder, big boot, multi-skilled lock who's physical, and then a scrummaging prop.
Tight head prop, yeah.
You've talked a little bit. I heard you spitballing this on a pod about Ireland maybe casting a wider net to get more athletes, almost like an NFL combine, some kind of testing. Because the French seem to be harvesting people like Emmanuel Miafu, he was not thought of as good enough rugby player in Australia. And they just get big bodies and they throw them in there. They don't necessarily fit the mold. Gigoux, Gelange,
and they're still throwing scholarships to 16, 17-year-old Tongans and Fijians and Samoans as well.
For sure.
Yeah, it's unusual actually. Yeah, so Ron Nagara at La Rochelle's just signed a kid from Australia, 16-year-old. That's unusual.
Yeah.
It's gone down. Sorry, it hasn't gone down badly, but there's quite a bit of debate in France about bringing a kid that young. So like traditionally they did it at 18. It's just a talking point, but like there's a battle for talent, and some of that talent's in your country, and some of the talent's external. It's not, and it's what you do. I think there's not guys like Miafu walking around the streets of Cork or Dublin, Harry. But we have very good athletes, and like the thing is, what people sometimes confuse power with mass, right? So Miafu is our skeleton, or Antonio. They're big, heavy, powerful athletes. But then what I was really impressed by was with Cross and Barassi, they also have power. You know what I mean? Barry has power in terms of his speed, and evasion, and that's what we have loads of those playing other sports. We don't have fellas like Bia Barry, but who have done it in rugby. But we have really,
good footballers,
really good athletes. Yeah. Footballers who could fit into our system and give us more depth, and that's the challenge for the RFU now, is to kind of really ramp up that talent development pathway and try and make the game more accessible to wider communities, because this country has changed. It's totally different than it was in terms of demographics 30 years ago. We've had a lot of immigration, and people who are now see themselves are Irish and raising their families here. They're here for the long term, and we haven't done a good enough job of maybe getting into their communities to give them access to rugby, I don't think, and sell the game to them so they get benefit from it, and they get the benefit that we do by, because we love it.
On the bright side, I was at that Donnybrook match. Paddy Clancy, the number 10 for Blackrock, just took over the game. You just the smallest guy on the field, thought his way through it, and ended up being, in my opinion, definitely the MVP. Sam Prendergast has been that way, from the jump. You know him, you've coached him. How do you see him reacting to what would have been a rare, big defeat? I don't know if he would have been around that many situations where he got hammered like that. What do you think he gets from it?
He got hockeyed and he went for the Leinster for the Bulls, I think. So he went on a tour there. But look, he was probably beaten in school at the odd time of that. I think it was a great learning for him of how accurate you need to be, particularly when you don't have time and space, So I don't know if you're aware of this, but there's a lot of toxicity in Ireland around Prendergast Crowley.
The culture war.
Oh, yeah.
But it's not. I think, look, it's very social media. Like I'm lucky enough that I get to meet a lot of people at different events, and the vast majority don't have this opinion that it's red v blue. It's two guys competing for green, but there's an element for sure who feel that Sam Prendergast has been given a free ride and he's got opportunities that he doesn't deserve, etc. I think
I've likened it to New South Wales, Queensland, but it's very similar.
The problem is it's a wider issue here because even though Leinster haven't got anything like the trophies they aspire to have, they have been successful in from an Irish provincial point of view of being a dominant province, the ones getting to semi-finals, finals, and that's really frustrating certain fans. Obviously, they're also dominating the Irish team in terms of numbers.
Central contracts.
Central contracts. So there's a lot of things and now suddenly they have a focus point, which is Sam Prendergast versus Jack Crowley. I think that you could have had Dan Carter, Johnny Sexton, Freddie Michalak playing 10 against France, and the result would have been the same. Like for Ireland, we have to understand, and it's cliche, that your halfbacks are reliant on go forward ball, we had very little of it. Like for me, if Gibson Park was brilliant and Sam Prendergast was shit, I would say, oh, geez, maybe it was Sam's fault. But when Gibson Park, who is probably the second best nine in the world, also has a very quiet day, or you can question some of his decision making, you have to understand the stress that he was under because of how the breakdown felt. So that's all relative, but you just got to stay as calm as you can and go, okay, did Sam have a brilliant game? No, he did some things well, he had some errors, but what 10 would have turned that game? You probably need to be someone like Antoine Dupont at 10, who could just win a game on your own. And I don't think any of us have ever
changed the shape.
Anyone have ever really said that Sam's going to do that as a 22-year-old. Sam has got loads of really good parts of his game, as Jack Crowley does. But we're above anyone else. We're a team who rely less on X factor and more on executing a plan. And if the opposition take away some of your sources to create that plan, it's very difficult.
Yeah. Is there a risk that Crowley goes to Leicester?
No, not a chance in the world. You'd swear that he's been totally disenfranchised. I think he starts this weekend against Italy. He's been coming off the bench. He started against the All Blacks. He started against South Africa. He's very much in the fight here, and he's a Munster man. He's an Irish man. It's really important for your listeners to understand. If you leave Ireland, you don't play for Ireland.
That's exactly why I asked the question.
Yeah, and he's a young man. He'll be at the next World Cup. He could be at the World Cup after that if he stays in Ireland. So it's not like other countries where, Geordie Barrett can still be an All Black, RG Snyman can still be a Springbok. If you leave Ireland, that's the end of you. And I don't think I'd be absolutely shocked if they can't get a deal done.
Well, the funniest conspiracy theory
Jackman says no chance.
The funniest conspiracy theory about Jack was that they said that he was being photoshopped out of every photo that IRFU was putting out there. And when I was walking around the streets of Dublin, every time I found Jack on a picture, and he was everywhere, by the way.
No, I know, but it's just
there he is.
It's mad. Yeah, there's some mentalers. I've had to block a lot of people this week.
So can we talk about England? Because when I look across the stats and we kind of go, how do they sneak in there and this and that? They didn't really sneak in there in some ways, and they were just a few moments away from having an even more successful tournament. On some of the stats, like for example, gain line, they're leading the tournament. Tackle evasion, they're finishing their breaks into tries, which is something Ireland's not doing right now. They got a proper set piece,
and which England weren't doing in November even.
Yeah. So even though it's not exciting or sexy sometimes, they are building into something that it's sustainable. It looks like it's a thing that could be something. And you have the Saints back line there that's bringing a little bit of fun. Where do you think they are, and how much are they really in the top three now? It's not really a top two, it's a top three.
Yeah, I think so. I think so. I think they have the makings of a very good side. They just need, it's still a little bit unclear what kind of team they are. I think even within a game, they go from being really pragmatic to being exciting, and maybe that's their model. That's how they're going to play. But I don't think they're always on the same page. Selection, he's mixed up the team a bit this weekend again, which is good for development, but it's a bit strange because you would have felt they had a little bit of momentum, obviously, with beating France, beating Scotland, and beating Italy. But look, if you're talking about, maybe he thinks it's very unlikely they're going to win a Six Nations, and he's building the squad for next year and the World Cup. So I admire England. I think there's a lot of talent there. As you say, their attack is kind of becoming very Northampton attack-like, and there's an obvious benefit from that. It's worked for Ireland for a long time. Great back row. Marrow's playing very well. Will Stewart's had a good tournament. Alex Mitchell, they've got a lot of pace. Yeah, they're set up, like, to be honest with you, like, they lost games in November that they could have easily won. They could have beaten Ireland. They could be going for Grand Slam of their own. And
they played really good team. They played New Zealand 3 or 4 times.
Yeah,
so exactly. You're gonna have some tough ones. I was wrong, very flat out wrong, about Maro Itoje. The effect of captaincy on Maro, I actually think it's made him better. And I thought maybe he'd be involved in too many awkward conversations with the ref, having been the one penalized, but he's tidied up a little bit. But he hasn't lost aggression. What do you think about him as an inspirational captain?
I think he must be putting pressure on Farrell to potentially be the Lions captain, because he's guaranteed to play. I know Doris is probably guaranteed to play as well, but I think there's a lot to like about him. If you heard Jamie George, how he spoke about him after the game, I think he's taken to it really well. As you say, it hasn't affected his form. His form has been outstanding. So he's up there with Doris for me in terms of who's going to captain this British and Irish Lions.
Any big movers up or down in the Lion?
I think we're down. I think the Irish players all got a setback. If we finish third in the championship, which is a strong possibility, and you look back at the form of some of our players, so a lot of them were very, very quiet against France, to be fair. But Josh van der Fleer.
Yeah, Josh van der Fleer.
Yeah, he just because of the competition. So Jack Morgan could, if it was fair, end up being the player of the tournament and have lost 5 games. That's how good he's been.
Yes.
You've got the under, Curry's Underwood. There's just a lot of good sevens around. Gary Ringrose, obviously the suspension, is that going to affect his chances? Gibson Park will travel. Who will go? Will Ireland have a 10 on the tour? Wouldn't be sure about now.
We've talked about the Lions having a very handsome Scottish midfield, and fullback, but with every week of the tournament, it actually feels very real now.
Yeah, it does. Look at Scotland. Scotland, if they have a good performance in Paris, from an attacking point of view, and Farrell likes to attack. Hugh Jones, Blair Kinghorn, Sione Tuipulotu, who hasn't played, but who could come back into it now. With his club form with Glasgow when he gets back, like Scotland, Finn obviously is potentially in pole position to start, but I don't know. I'm really fascinated who Farrell thinks is going to be the starting Lions 10. Would he go with Finn Smith? Would he go with Prendergast or Crowley? it's a big call, but
I never thought I'd say this. Is Finn Russell the safe option?
well, no, I don't think he is. But maybe he is the best option to bring the best of the talent around him out.
Yeah,
I feel like every backline position is actually in a supreme contest. Whereas before, I would have nailed on Jameson Gibson Park, James Lowe, and Hugo Keenan, write them in, set them down. And then I would have probably even thought the same thing around the midfield, and that it's hard to go beyond Aki, Ringrose, or something. Now I kind of think, everything's up there. Don't know.
Yeah.
It's all about how Farrell wants to play.
Yeah, I think Ollie
Kinghorn
Lawrence
versus Keenan and Kinghorn are very different players. And
Ollie Lawrence's injury was a blow. I mean, he was trucking very nicely. But it's. But look, like Farrell was at the Ireland France game, but I'm sure he'll be in Cardiff on Saturday for England Wales and get a good look at both teams. Faletau has actually been very good. He's been very, very good. He's been back.
Yeah.
And will he get another Lions tour? He'll probably get a Lions tour. Will he be a test line again? Such a quality player. I think he's moving to France next year to play his club rugby. But what a warrior!
That'd be his third tour, if you know.
Third,
yeah.
Farrell and Farrell's effect pretty well. What do you think was the most? What did Ireland miss the most by Andy Farrell being out, given that everything else seems the same?
I think we definitely missed his ability to motivate players, and that sounds such a cheesy thing. But I think if you look at the best the best coaches now, they're storytellers. They get the right message, they get the right mindset, and he is phenomenal. So. The week 2 years ago when Ireland played France in what was a Grand Slam decider, effectively, both teams were head and shoulders above everyone else. It was a phenomenal game. Ireland won it and went on to win a Grand Slam. I remember speaking to a player in the warm up, and I said, "How you feeling?" He said, "No, we are so ready. Like, we are so ready." And by all accounts, Farrell had started that process through the messaging, well in advance, and he just had it. They had him ready. You know what I mean? They couldn't see anything else other than an Ireland win because of how they felt. And I think this week, I thought we would get to that state emotionally because of Peter and Connor and Keane.
Yeah.
But we weren't. And maybe we managed that really badly, and maybe we should never have made it. Maybe we should never have made it about them. Because for us to beat France, we need to be absolutely in the right emotional state and mindset. And I think when you look at that game, so many players underperformed that we weren't. And I totally accept we weren't allowed to perform. But I still think the fact, like, if you look at that Irish team, only Doris, you would say, had moments where you went, he deserves to be on the same pitch as those lads. And they were defensive moments. They were defensive moments for him.
Because he got held up, and that was a critical point.
He got held up, which is a big blow for. And something my piece for pre-match Saturday for RT is how poor we've actually been in terms of in the 22. So that red zone efficiency, which Ireland used to be lethal, we've got held up 6 times over the line in this competition. But that's it's an effect of what we're doing before that, if that makes sense. In terms of how we were manipulating defenders. So. I would say Farrell, like, when you hear players who work with Farrell speak about the way he makes them feel and how good he is, it's only natural without him there's going to be a drop off, but obviously because we've been winning, we maybe felt we didn't need him as much as we do.
That makes so much sense. And I was there for the South African, the double, and Loftus was such a gut punch. And the way Farrell rallied his players in 1 week to go to Durban and do a street brawl by the docks, break arms and legs, and get a drop goal win, I thought that man knows how to get people back up off the canvas. We always talk about fine margins in elite sports, and then there's a fine margin thing. We go, no, it couldn't be that.
Yeah,
it could be that. It could be that people just feel good. Gaultier is different now too. Gaultier's gone into his grim, mustachioed, mastermind. He is not a happy camper. You look back 2 years ago, he was smiling and doing, sneaker ads. Now he seems to be on a mission. Where do you think France can go from here? Have we seen their ceiling, or are they going to be ominously even better?
No, we haven't seen the ceiling at all, because there's so many exciting players in that French system, and also I think he's got the balance right now. So my understanding is that he took the rejection or the disappointment of that home defeat in the World Cup so badly that he was unbearable, and that was having a big effect on the players. So, part of the reason the hangover, like, he didn't talk to anybody for about a month. Apparently, they couldn't get him on the phone. Like, he really went into
right.
Yeah, and by all accounts, when he came back into the camp, he was walking around with his head down. He was carrying the weight of that on his shoulders. And my understanding is that some of the French clubs kind of saw their players come back from French camp kind of down and broken as well, and they kind of got word to him, look, this isn't going to work for you long term if the environment is so heavy. And I think he would never wanted the cause to have happened, which was obviously not win a World Cup, but maybe it's actually he's found the best mix, and these players seem incredibly unified. He's fighting for them. Yeah. He's fighting for them. I think it's all a big act, post match, to make sure that they. And I think that was also what Edwards was kind of saying. We celebrate fucking Saturday night, with a trophy. Not now, not beating Ireland. That's not our mission. Our mission is to lift the trophy. So I think they'll win Saturday. They'll go to New Zealand without their top dogs. They'll find 4 or 5 more players who'll start to keep pushing. Let's be honest, if you're saying who's going to be ready for Australia in 2027, France have to be in the discussion.
They might all be.
Their age profile is brilliant.
Yeah, very good.
Yeah. The worry will be the so-called French second 15 will come to New Zealand and be really, really good, and that narrative will just disappear after the first test. There's a real risk there. Before we let you go, Italy, Ireland, Wales, England, France, Scotland this weekend. Where's the biggest chance of an upset, do you think, out of those 3?
Biggest chances in Cardiff. I think Wales have shown green shoots. There's been enough against Ireland. There's been enough in that bit of a fight back against Scotland. The way they're playing, the match you're at attack philosophy is making them dangerous. Like, they weren't dangerous under Warren at the end. It was, it was lifeless. They still don't have a front 5 or a mentality a winning mentality yet, because they haven't. It's not based on anything. They're not winning enough with the regions. They haven't won in 16 games with Wales, but they are dangerous if they were to, and they have pace. They have pace out wide. Yeah. So if they were to get a fast start, and England just panicked a little bit, that's the only place I can see an upset this weekend, to be honest.
Well, and if they can, if they can go with Morgan, as you touched on him before, he's been so good through this tournament, and some of the stats around his performances, his breakdown appearance with and without the ball is just phenomenal. So if they can go with him, that'd have to be a chance.
Yeah, there's a chance. That's the only place I think there's going to be an upset. Sorry, that it could be an upset. I think England should. I think the problem for Wales will be if they get themselves in a position to be winning, are they able to stay composed enough or clinical enough to actually finish it? That's the challenge. I think it'll be the summer tour. I think they go to Japan. That's where they'll get their win. There'll be a bit more, I suppose, of an organisation around that Welsh rugby program. They'll have a DOR. They'll have a head coach who's there for the long term, and you may then start to see them gradually improve. But they still have 4 or 5 players who could do something magical, which is good, and they look like they're playing a way that is going to give those players an opportunity. But you still fancy England just to have too much, I think.
Yeah, I think that's fair. But there we say it to Warren Gatland. Maybe Wales has woken up. Oh. The thing is, if they do pull that upset off, I mean, all of Wales will just go ablaze. That will say, to break your losing streak by beating England in Cardiff would be legend.
I said to you last week, at which point does the Welsh Union just go, Matt, honestly, just keep going. Just keep doing the job, please. Like, if they beat England, they should be beating down his door to try and keep him in the job.
I'm not sure he wants it,
he might stay.
Yeah.
We'll see. But this has been a great chat. It always is really good chat. We thank you for giving us some time, and we might touch base again after Easter, and we might talk about Lions and things like that then.
Yeah, perfect. Thanks, guys.
Yep. Cheers.
This is the 8-9 Combo with Brett McKay and Harry Jones, and mate, wonderful, so wonderful to have Bernard Jackman back on the pod.
If you want to dig into European, Six Nations, home nations, Irish, even if you want to talk about horse racing in Australia, which is the man.
He's all over it, isn't he? Yeah, he's great. You'll have noticed by now the guest program has moved to midweek. Here we are, and we're now kicking off the week with the weekend postmortem, which is a look back on all the big games and all the big results each weekend. It's out late Sunday, early Monday morning, depending on where you are in the rugby world and when we record it, and it's been good fun to go back through those. And if you haven't gone and listened to our chat with Rian Lowe after last weekend's round of blockbuster games, go back and check that out on the pod platforms or on our YouTube page as well. It was a good fun chat. I really enjoyed that, mate. Games of the week. Look, it all kicks off with the Six Nations. Undoubtedly, there's three really interesting games to be played on Saturday afternoon. Italy, Ireland in Rome, Wales, England in Cardiff, France, Scotland in Paris. I think the expectation is they'll all go to type, but what if there's a curveball?
I think I disagree with Birch on one thing, which is where is the most likely upset? I think Wales, in their sort of resurgence, has already found their best performance against Ireland. And I think it's going to be difficult for them, as all undermanned teams do in the final round of a long tournament with injuries mounting. I think Scotland still has something to say here. And the reason why I say that is because the French have the very big potential of a hangover. Not literally, but maybe literally. Yes. And what they would have expended and the output would have been phenomenal. And Scotland is one of those teams that puts together about 2 magnificent games out of 5. And we're waiting for the second one. And what if it happens right now? It would be just like Scotland. Yeah. To sort of go, and that was kind of a lousy Six Nations, but we did beat the French.
We did beat France in Paris.
Or a draw or some weird permutation that no one has drawn up. Yeah.
When was the last time Scotland won in France?
They won not too long ago to deny the French the Six Nations, and it was Ramos when he was still being an idiot. Didn't play the time. You had idiot Hogg against idiot Ramos, and then Ramos got smart. But listen, it can happen. The table is close enough. It shouldn't happen. The French should win, and it should go by tie. I think this is the round where it should go exactly the way we think it is, which is, the French handle at home, and then the other two try to mount a score. Sometimes when you chase a score, it can backfire on you, and that's why I think Willis should have started at 8 and just build a proper innings, England. Yeah. And then the score comes at the end. They're trying to set a team up that can run. But I don't think so. I just... we're talking about the Lions. We're talking about how good a back line Scotland has. If the French have another boneheaded display like they did against England, which is in them, we just saw it, within the month, then that's there, because Finn Russell is no joke. Kinghorn's not a mug. These guys can score. Who would deny Duhan van der Merwe's ability, Hugh Jones's ability, Tom Jordan's? They can do it.
They've got dream boats out wide.
Right. I just think that, like Birch is saying, I'm just quibbling with who's the most likely. I think there should not be an upset this week. It should go exactly.
I don't think they will be. And I think, I think this is where we cheat and say, all 3 of those go into our games of the week, because they're all interesting games in their own right. But they almost certainly, if we're tipping those games, they're all three going. There's no upsets being tipped there.
The one in Paris is the one to me that's the most interesting because of the Lions aspect and the fact that Scotland's the fourth team. So, you're not expecting much from Italy final round. You think they might get swept away, actually.
Yeah. I think you're probably right. It's interesting either way. It's round 5 of Super Rugby Pacific this weekend. Kicks off in New Zealand on Friday night. Highlanders Hurricanes could be a ripper. Brumbies Drua back in Canberra to follow that will be a ripper. And then on Saturday, I think the Chiefs Blues is going to be a great game. And then Queensland New South Wales is going to be a fantastic game there as well. And I can is that what that was? I could flip a coin between Chiefs Blues and Queensland New South Wales this week in terms of game of the week. And I'm not disappointed I'm going to see Brumbies Drua from ground level either, because that's going to be an interesting game.
Well, I'm all about the better red than dead derby. That sounds like a fun thing. Son of Ferg, John Ferguson, our friend who had us on this last week, he's previewed very well in the Roar the permutations and also the sort of story within the story of Wallaby coach matchup.
And that's interesting. I've seen a few articles, sort of saying, the Wallabies coaching job could be decided this weekend.
Not on the win loss. I mean, John, I think John points out nicely. It's more on the style, which is whether or not you win or lose, it's like, what are you doing with style and how would that fit best to the playing group that is currently existing in Australia?
And I still don't think that it's decided this weekend, even with that.
So, no, not decided, but informed that there's an actual feedback loop we can look at. And mind games, which John points out nicely, of Dan playing a little bit of mind games, keeps talking about the Reds being clearly best team in Australia.
I've seen I've seen Dan McKellar lob those grenades up close. He is one of the best at it.
Piling pressure on Les Kiss,
absolutely. Well, and look, there's actually a little bit of pressure on both of them because yes, the Waratahs have been rebuilding and they've been showing a little bit each week. I still think Queensland have been a long way from their best, and they were.
Oh, really? They've been
ordinary at times last week against the Crusaders. So, the
Tars have been playing a little bit, maybe almost a little above what we thought they might be, and the Reds have been underperforming.
I didn't think New South Wales would flip the script so much and be so forward and breakdown heavy. That's a Dan McKellar fundamental, but I didn't think he would get them to flip 180 degrees in one preseason. But that's the impact that he's had there already. And when the Mike Cat attack starts kicking in from there, there's a good team brewing there.
Tars are going 6-2, aren't they? I think maybe.
Believe so. Yeah. Believe so. There's no URC. There's no English Premiership. There's no top 14 this weekend. They all resume the weekend of March 22 and 23. The Champions Cup round of 16 is the weekend of April 5 and 6, and we'll obviously be talking about that as it starts getting close. Japan Rugby League 1 this weekend. It's week 13. A couple of games that sort of half interest me there is Shizuoka Blue Revs, the artist formerly known as Yamaha, playing the Saitama Wild Knights. That's fourth against first, and Shizuoka can sort of be clear of the chasing pack, I think, if they can get a result there. I'm not sure they will, but that's what they're playing for. And then I think the actual pick is Kobelco Kobe Steelers against me, Honda Heat. That's 6th against 8th. Honda are 3 points clear of the relegation zone now. Kobe is 7 points behind Blue Revs in 4th. So they both need to win for different reasons to stay safe and in contention. So that's gonna be a little interesting one. I'll be interested to see how that plays out. Major League Rugby, just the 4 games this weekend. I think the pick there is the first one there on that list. Chicago Hounds v Old Glory DC in Chicago on Saturday. That's first against third in the Eastern Conference. the goddamn Houston Sabercats have the bye this weekend, as do 2 other teams, I think.
The sun is out in Chicago, which means that the entire city of Chicago is on the lake, which is like an ocean, getting sunburned. And that will be a vibe. I think that's the game of the week. You're right.
Yeah, I think it is. I think it is. I think the rest of them are all a little bit mid-table-ish, I think. Anything else we've got to include for the week?
In Japan, apparently, when you get hamburgers there, a lot of times you get them 3 ways, but they're all with rice. So imagine your hamburger perfectly cooked, as you will if you're Japanese. Everything's perfect. And then you have rice with it. That's my closing comment.
What's 3 ways? What are the 3 ways?
It's like sliders. Well, like one has like chopped radishes with,
Oh, okay, right.
Some sauce.
I thought you meant first they boiled it.
They drop an egg on it or something.
And then they seared it, and then they deep fried it or something like that. I thought
but it's all with rice.
Triple cooked.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
What have you got against rice?
I'm providing content for the audience.
Is that what
like information? Yeah.
Tune in next week for Harry's random fact of the week. That then is another great episode of the 8-9 Combo behind us. And our sincere thanks to Bernard Jackman for joining us for what was a proper meaty rundown of all the fallout out of the Island France blockbuster last weekend. Don't forget to be sure to follow the 8-9 Combo on all the social platforms, on YouTube, on Blue Sky, as well as on Twitter, to keep up all of our movements. Leave us a rating, a review wherever you can, and share us for far and wide as well. That would be very, very much appreciated. Harry and I remain on the socials in our usual places at Harry Baldy Jones and at BMC Sport. This is the 8-9 Combo, the short side set piece combination you didn't realise you needed in a rugby podcast. Sean Maloney is ready to go in the closer again. I'm Brett McKay. He's Harry Jones, and we will be back in your ears for the final Six Nations weekend postmortem this Sunday.
Come play with us. Here goes Jones with another bruising run. He links up with McKay, who pops back to Jones. They can't. They won't. They will. What a try. The Dream Team Combo go in again.